and we have got time limitations, right? So I'll try to wrap it up today only, but if some portion is left, then a separate video for it I'll make, part 2 of it. Okay. Anyway, so let's get started. Question number 1 is, first of all, it is saying that question number 1 contains 5 questions and each of 10 marks each. So guys, you must be aware that if each question, or if a question is of 10 mark, then in 10 marker question you have to write your answer in 150 words. So in all these 5 questions, you have to write the answer in 150 words. Okay. First is, differentiate between perceived demand curve and proportional demand curve in a monopolistic competitive market, and explain why the proportional demand curve is steeper than the perceived demand curve. So here there are 2 concepts that the question is asking us to explain. One is perceived demand curve. Now what is perceived demand curve? See, as the name is suggesting, just a minute. As the name is suggesting, perceived means that this demand is being perceived by a firm. Firm is perceiving that it will have certain demand. Okay, this demand is being perceived by a firm. Firm is perceiving that it will have this demand. Fine. So first of all, this perceived demand is limited to firms only. Yes or no? It is for a singular firm. Fine. I am talking about perceived demand. So perceived demand is the demand that is an estimation done by a single firm. So it is constrained to a single firm. Secondly, what estimation firm is doing? Firm is doing the estimate that what will be the price of the good, or what will be the relation between the price and quantity of the good. Yes or no? So the good which the firm is manufacturing, it is expecting some price for that good. Okay. Yes or no? And when it is expecting some price, so based on that price, it is going to produce that good. Yeah. That so will be the price. So this much quantity of good will be sold in the market. Accordingly, it will do the manufacturing. That's why perceived demand is important. Okay. So it is an estimation or perception of quantity of goods based on price. Fine. Based on price, the estimation done is called perceived demand. Clear? Now what are the characteristics? First of all, if I talk about characteristic, so the curve is downward sloping curve. The curve is downward sloping, and downward sloping means there is inverse relation between price and quantity demanded. Okay. In perceived demand curve, you will have downward sloping curve. Next is that in this curve, just a minute. Yeah. In this curve, you will observe elasticity. There is elasticity as well in this curve. Why elasticity? See, here the demand or quantity demanded is going to vary with a small change in price. So this curve is relatively elastic. A small change in price is going to change this significantly. It is going to change the quantity demanded. Okay, just a minute. So the curve is going to be more elastic. It will be downward sloping. Fine. And then it is firm specific. So for perceived, we have three things. Number one, price and quantity demanded are inversely related. Number two, it is relatively elastic. And it is contained or curtailed with a firm. So it is firm specific for a particular firm. Clear? Now, if I talk about proportional demand curve, so see guys, this curve is steeper. By steeper, what I mean that quantity demanded is not going to change that much with the change in the price. Yeah, there will be some change in the quantity demanded, but not that much. So it is steeper in comparison to perceived demand. Understood? Secondly, it is going to talk about the entire market. Proportional demand curve is going to talk about the entire market, whereas perceived demand curve was contained for only a single firm. Clear? So here entire market will be considered. Okay guys, clear? समझ में आ गया आपको? Everyone? Okay. Moving on to the next question. It is asking us to explain the phenomena of classical dichotomy. Okay. So first of all, before we proceed to this question, if I give you the overview of the paper, so guys, paper was very easy. In fact, every time economics optional paper is easy, my students find it very easy. Why? Because all the topics that are being taught and done in the class, questions are being framed from only those topics. Getting me or not? Right. Nothing comes from outside. 95% of the questions that came in the paper were being taught in the class. I'm going to make one separate video also where I will illustrate with the lecture number and all that which question came from which lecture of mine. Okay. So everything was from the lecture. It was a very much doable paper, and I expect that the cutoff will go a bit high also this time. Right. But yeah, easily one could have scored 320, 25 here in economics optional. Anyway, so this phenomena, you people might remember, this was the first thing that we discussed in after mercantilism in macroeconomics. We discussed this phenomena. It is classical approach. Yes or no? So if I read out the definition to you, first I'll read it out, then I will explain you also that what is classical dichotomy. So it suggests that change in the nominal variable. Now, when I talk about nominal variable, so nominal variable is what? It is prices, money supply, all these things come under nominal variables. Okay. And there are one more type of variables that are known as real variables. Okay. Real variables means production, output, all these things come under real variable. Employment also. Anyway, so classical dichotomy suggests that change in nominal variables do not affect real variables in the long run. So there won't be any effect on the real variables in the long run. That's what classical dichotomy tells us. That means if you are going to change the money supply, if you are going to change the price of the goods, so the real variables like production, output, employment, in the long run, these variables will not be affected. Got it or not? See, and in this case, one more thing you could have told that even if you could have given the example that according to classicals, if you increase the money supply, then due to that, there will be general increase in the price level. So increase in the money supply will lead to inflation. It will lead to inflation here. There won't be any change in the production or output or employment. Getting my point? Employment level will remain same. Now, if I talk about the assumption, so one major assumption is flexible wage price ratio. Wage price ratio is flexible here. What I mean by flexible wage price ratio, see, I'm not going to elaborate it because we can't do everything if we start elaborating each and everything. Just will brief it out. By flexible wage price ratio, we mean that if you take the ratio of wage, that is salary, upon the price of the good, it is going to be flexible. That means that if the prices are going to increase, then what will happen? Then the salary of the employer, wages will also increase. Thereby, this increase will cancel out each other. And again, what will happen? The ratio will be constant. Okay. If there is decrease in the prices, then automatically salaries will also be decreased. Again, the ratio will be constant. So wage price flexibility means that there is going to be a constant ratio of wage and price. Understood? Yes or no? Right. Second assumption is that there will be perfect competition. So many conditions of perfect competition are there. All those conditions will prevail here. There will be perfect competition in the market. Any firm can enter without any barrier. Any firm can leave without any barrier. Many buyers, many sellers, homogeneous goods, etc., etc. Understood or not? Okay. Now, if we talk about the strengths, because we have to discuss it critically, question is saying discuss this phenomena critically. So we have to talk about the strength as well as weaknesses of classical dichotomy. So if I talk about strength, so see, first of all, in strength, it provides the framework for the analysis. It gives a proper framework. Okay. How? What type of framework? It is actually giving you the framework to understand the role of money. You can properly understand the role of money in economy by the use of classical dichotomy. Getting my point? Next is the focus of it. The focus of this model is in the long run. It is not talking about the short run. Yes or no? It is talking about the long run. That in long run, if I give you the example, the monetary policy is only going to influence the nominal variables. There won't be any influence on the real variables in long run. Okay. So it always focuses on long run, and in long run it says what? That monetary policy is going to affect the nominal variables. Okay. And many economic models, guys, have used this classical dichotomy concept to express their ideas. Okay. And it is used for analyzing inflation and growth. All these ideas are based on classical dichotomy. Okay. So these are the strength of this model or this concept. If I talk about the critiques of it, the shortcomings of it, so first of all, this model fails in short run. It has got short run limitations. As I told you, the model is basically long run. So in short run, it fails. Getting my point? Yes or no? Why? Because what happens in short run? In short run, changes in nominal variables, they are going to have real effect. That means production, employment, all these things can vary with change in nominal variables in short run. So changes in nominal variables will have real effect. Okay. So here the concept fails. Yes or no? Here the concept is failing. Clear. Next is role of expectations. So see, guys, if you talk about modern economic theories, so these theories are based on the expectations of future. You might be aware that depending on the future prices, the production of today is decided that how much one has to produce or not. Getting me or not? Next is this concept is talking about non-neutrality. This concept is actually talking about neutrality of money. But you can say, I'm not going to write each and everything, just narrating it because I have to wrap it up also. Non-neutrality of money. So see, according to this concept, money is neutral. It is not going to have any real effect. But that's not true. Why? Because there are many phenomena that we study and Keynes and all. We see that in the long run, money is having effect. Yeah. Right. So that is also the problem. Then behavioral considerations. So all these issues are there, which can be said that these are the critiques of this phenomena. Clear? So if you could have written this much, you would have got wonderful marks. Moving on. Next is show that ad valorem tax is preferable to a specific sales tax from a firm's point of view. See guys, if we talk about ad valorem tax, so ad valorem tax is actually the reference to the percentage. What I mean, understand that when ad valorem tax is charged, then on the selling price of a good, a certain percentage is fixed by the government. For example, let's say 10%. Let's say on a toothpaste, government has fixed the ad valorem tax of 10%. So now it is irrelevant whether the price of toothpaste is 100 rupees or 200 rupees. Depending on the price, the 10% will be the revenue of the government. Yes or no? Right. So this is a percentage basis. On percentage basis, government takes the tax on the price or selling price of the product. So that is, I'm just briefing it out that what actually it means. That is your ad valorem tax. Whereas if you talk about specific sales tax, see, as the name is suggesting, specific sales tax. Specific sales tax means that when government puts a specific value, absolute value, that for example, if there is a toothpaste, so government is saying I'll take 18 rupees as tax on sales on toothpaste. Now, if the price of toothpaste is 100 rupees, so 18 rupees is the tax. If the price of toothpaste is 200 rupees, then also 18 rupees is the tax. So there is no percentage basis, rather a value is fixed. Getting my point or not? So that's the basic difference between ad valorem tax and your specific tax. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of ad valorem tax? So see, first of all, it is favorable for firms because of price flexibility. Yes or no? Why? Because in case of ad valorem tax, there is no requirement of adjustment. Why? Because you have fixed a certain percentage of the price as a tax. So every time the price will change, automatically ad valorem tax will also change. Yes or no? If 10% is the tax, so for 100 rupees, 10 rupees will be the tax. And for 200 rupees product, toothpaste, 20 rupees will be the tax. So you need not change the tax every time you are changing the price. Automatically this adjustment will be done. There will be price flexibility. Yes or no? Right? So every time firm decides to increase or decrease the price, it doesn't have to bother about the tax will automatically adjust itself. Tell me, understood or not? Then second thing is revenue predictability. See, it becomes very easy when you have fixed the percentage. So now you can easily calculate. You do not need to have you are not having the fixed values that, okay, on this good, this much, on this product, this much. No, it's the percentage basis. So whatever the price is, that headache is gone. You can easily calculate the percentage of it and you can find out the total revenue. Understood or not? Firms can also easily remove the 10% and then they can realize that what their revenue is. Understanding? They don't have to worry, Acha, I sold this much, so I will reduce this much. This is my revenue. No need for it. Simply extract out the percentage of tax. Rest is your revenue. Getting me or not? Okay, and due to this, there is also the promotion of competitive pricing between the firms, because firms are exactly aware that this much tax they have to do. Now, they have to give. Now, they can fix their prices, they can change their prices, or they can compete with their prices with their rivals, because now they know what their original price will be. Rest is the tax now. So, all these are the positive aspects. Did you understand? Okay. Moving on. Next is, it is saying examine the role of treasury bills. These are also known as T-bills in controlling the money supply. Okay. See guys, first of all, we have to understand that treasury bills are what? They are actually the government securities. These are GSEC, and basically T-bills are short-term government securities. Okay. Anyway, so what happens is RBI controls the monetary policy of a country that you all are aware of. Okay. Now, there is one tool in the monetary policy that is known as open market operations. So, under open market operations, what RBI does is it sells or purchases the government securities. Getting my point or not? Yeah. So, what RBI does is RBI controls the monetary policy of a country. Yes or no? I am writing monetary policy in short as MP. And under MP, there is one tool, and the name of this tool is open market operations. Under open market operations, what RBI does? It either buys or purchases government securities. And when I am saying government securities, I mean T-bill also, right? Or it sells government securities. Now, when RBI buys or when it sells government securities, or how it is going to affect the money supply. So see guys, there is one very simple funda that I tell my students, that whenever, always remember that whenever money is going to the RBI, so money supply is going to decrease. And whenever money is moving away from RBI, then money supply is going to increase. Yes or no? Right. When RBI, understand one more thing, if RBI is reducing the money supply, that means at that point of time, inflation is there in the country, inflationary conditions are there. Therefore, RBI is trying to extract the money or liquidity from the market. Okay, it wants to remove it. And if RBI is trying to increase the money supply, that means deflationary conditions are there in the market. And by increasing the money supply, RBI is trying to increase the liquidity in the market. Now, if RBI is buying government securities, T-bills, so actually RBI majorly buys these securities from the commercial banks. They are one of the major consumers of government securities. So when RBI says, okay, I'm purchasing government securities, these commercial banks, they will go to RBI and they will sell out their government securities and they will get money in return. Now this money, this extra money they have got by selling out their government securities, this money they can lend out. Yes or no? And when it is lent out, then people are going to borrow, investment will be done. So what will happen? Liquidity will reach the market and money supply will increase. Yes or no? Similarly, if RBI is selling the government securities, and when it is done, when it buys when there is deflation in the market and RBI wants to increase the liquidity. And when it sells, if there is inflation in the market, then RBI will start selling its government securities. Then what will happen? Then banks are going to buy the government securities. For that, these commercial banks, they will pay the money to RBI. So thereby, this excess money they were having, which they were lending out, that money will move away from them. Thereby, they won't have any extra fund or money to lend out. So what will happen now? They will increase the percentage or rate of interest they will increase. Hence, lesser and lesser people will take the loan, thereby liquidity in the market will decrease. Clear? Money supply will reduce. So that's what you had to do in this question. Understood, guys? These were the 4 questions. Tell me. Clear? Next question. It is saying, write down the major assumptions behind neoclassical loanable fund theory of interest. Okay. So pay attention. It is not asking you to explain loanable fund theory. It is basically asking the assumptions. Okay. So first of all, what assumption is there? The assumption is of market equilibrium. What is that? That interest rates are determined by supply and demand for loanable funds. So first assumption is your market equilibrium. I'm writing market in short and equilibrium also in short. So first is that there is market equilibrium. That means interest rates are going to be determined by the demand of loanable fund and supply of loanable fund. Okay. And that will lead to market equilibrium. Fine. Second is rational economic agents like individuals and firms are presumed to act rationally. So it is an assumption. It is assumed that the individuals and firms are going to act rationally and they will try to maximize their, see, individuals, they always try to maximize their utility, their satisfaction. Yeah, that's why individuals purchase goods they consume goods for satisfaction. Yes or no? They want to satisfy themselves. So they want to increase their satisfaction. So when I say individuals and firms are rational, that means individuals are going to do such things that will maximize their satisfaction or utility, and objective of firms is profit maximization. So firms will take those steps that will maximize their profit. Yes or no? Okay. So such decisions will be taken regarding the savings and borrowings, which will maximize the utility for consumer and which will maximize the profit for the firm. Clear? Next is homogeneity of funds. So loanable funds are treated as homogeneous goods. What is the meaning? All funds are interchangeable. It is not like this is a different fund, this is a different fund. It is homogeneous. All the funds can be interchanged with one another. Okay. Next, perfect information is available. There is no hidden agenda. Everything is known. That means people who are going to demand the loanable fund, they know everything. People who are going to supply, they know everything. Yes or no? Right. Next is time preference. Individuals have time preference for consumption. That means people, they want to consume soon. For example, if you tell someone that if you want loan, I will give you after 5 years. So they say, no, I will not take loan. This is an assumption. Huh? They want it now. They want to have things sooner than later. Okay. That's the time preference. And then saving and investment thing. So there is a direct relationship between saving and investment. Getting my point? Saving, see guys, in loanable fund theory, let me tell you one thing. Saving is considered as the supply. Yes or no? Because when people are going to save, that money will be deposited by the people in the bank, and then bank is going to give that money to the borrowers, and that will be what? Fund, loanable fund. Yes or no? And that will be invested by the borrowers. So the investment is done by the borrowers. This is your demand. Okay, in loanable fund theory. Right? So here, what I said, that savings is directly proportional to investment. That means supply and demand are directly related. That means higher savings you will do, it will lead to higher investment. Why? Because when you will do higher savings, so therefore rate of interest will decline. Bank will give out the loan at lower rate of interest. So more and more people will take the loan and investment will increase. Note it. Okay. Done. Okay, guys. Now let's proceed. Next is, it is saying derive Pareto optimality conditions in production in a two commodity, two factor, two producer framework, and show that Pareto optimality does not necessarily guarantee for the equity. See guys, here the framework that is being referred to, just going to give you the brief of it, and I'm going to tell you the condition also. Framework is two commodities. So let the two commodities be X and Y. Right. Then it two factors. So two factors of production, that is labor and capital. L is going to represent your labor and K is going to represent the capital. And then two products will be manufactured here, X and Y. And both are going to be manufactured with the help of labor and capital. Oh, sorry, I said X and Y. Let the two products be A and B. So labor for A, capital for A, and labor for B and capital for B. So this is the framework in which we are going to talk about Pareto optimality. Now, if we talk about production function, so if we talk about producer A, let's first talk about producer A. Two products are being produced now. So if I talk about A. So pay attention. Manufacturing of good A will be the function of LA and KA, yes or no? And manufacturing of good Y will also be the function of LA and KA. Similarly, if I talk about products B, so manufacturing of good X by B will be the function of LB, KB, and manufacturing of good Y will be the function of, right? Yes or no? Acha, here let us use in place of F. I used F here, na? So in order to separate them, let's use G. G as a function. Yeah. Now total resource, okay. If I talk about total, so total, if I talk about, so resources are limited. In accordance to that, total labor will be LA, labor used for A plus labor used for B. This is the total labor. There is no extra labor. Then total capital will be KA plus KB. No extra capital is there. Yes or no? Now, what are the conditions of Pareto optimality? So, first of all, MRTS, marginal rate of technical substitution. So, if I talk about MRTS of A, so MRTS of A will be MPL of A divided by MPL of MPK of A. Labor, what is MP? MP is marginal product of labor for A divided by marginal product of capital for A is equal to MRTS, marginal rate of technical substitution for B. This is the condition of Pareto optimality. This will be marginal product of labor for B divided by marginal product of capital for B. Getting me or not? Now, if we equate it, so what we will get? For commodities, we will get MPL of A upon MPL of B. I am just equating these two, na? They are equal. So now I transfer it. So MPL of B is equal to MPKA. Okay. Similarly, for commodity B also we had to do. This is for A, then for B also we can do. And then what will be the condition of efficiency? That marginal rate of substitution for good X comma Y is equal to marginal rate of substitution for X dash and Y dash. This is the efficiency condition for Pareto efficient. That's what they asked in the question. Clear or not, everyone? So that's how we had to do this question. Moving on. Next, they are saying Write down the behavioral assumptions used in the Marshallian and Walrasian approaches of market stability and show that these two approaches become conflicting when both the demand and supply curve are positively sloped. Okay. So see, if I first of all, let me talk about Marshallian and approach separately, and then I will talk about Walrasian approach separately. Let me segregate them. So see guys, excuse me, if I talk about Marshallian approach, so this perspective, it emphasizes on the individual behavior or the response in supply and demand. That means based on the quantity. That means under Marshall, you have to consider the demand and supply of the quantity. And due to change in the supply of the quantity of goods and the demand of the quantity of goods, price are going to change. So there will be alterations in the quantity demanded and quantity supplied that will lead to the price change, not the other way around. Okay. And how it will be done? The changes will be made until unless equilibrium is obtained, and the agenda is to maximize the utility. Consumers want to maximize their utility. Okay, so they will keep on changing the quantity demanded until they can derive the maximum utility from that good. Okay, and that applies for supply as well. So due to change in demand and supply, there will be an equilibrium, and that will be obtained, which will suffice to the maximum satisfaction. Clear or not? And at equilibrium, there will be market stability. Okay. If I talk about Walrasian approach, so Walrasian approach, yeah, one more thing in Marshallian approach, here only one entire market is not considered or taken. If you are referring to a single good, let's say bread, so only the market of bread will be taken and demand and supply will be determined for bread only. No other good will be affected. Ceteris paribus is the condition that prevails in Marshallian equilibrium. That's why this equilibrium is also called partial equilibrium, because we consider only a single market here. So one market system is followed. That means here you obtain partial equilibrium, and this equilibrium is obtained by change in the quantity of goods demanded and supplied. Getting me? Whereas if you talk about Walrus or Walrasian approach, so what happens under Walrus? Walrus is talking about the interlinkages of all the markets. Walrus says that all the markets are interrelated, and that's truth. If there will be a change in a price of a particular good, so it will lead to the change in the demand of another good that is associated with it, and then supply of another good that is also associated. So all the markets are interrelated. So therefore, whenever there is a change in the demand or supply of a single good, so all other goods demand and supply also changes, or it gets altered. Yes or no? So when equilibrium is obtained in the Walrus approach, so equilibrium for all the markets is obtained simultaneously. All the markets reach equilibrium simultaneously. That is why we call equilibrium here as general equilibrium. Okay. And what is he talking about? He is basically talking about, he is saying that your change in prices, pay attention here, that change in prices are going to affect the quantity demanded and quantity supplied. Okay, just the vice versa. Understood, guys? Right, so that's all you had to write. In the second part, it is saying that the curve is upward sloping. So see, price is inversely related to quantity demanded. So if there is increase in price, quantity demanded should decrease, and that's what Marshall and Walrus both said. But see, the thing is, if the demand curve is upward sloping, so that is the disruption in the market. With price, quantity demanded is not changing, decreasing, rather it is increasing. Getting me? So that's why this disruption is caused when the curves are positively sloped. Understood? Okay, moving on. Now, it is saying that in short run and long run equilibrium, for a monopolistic competition, we have to describe short run and long run. So what you had to do here was, I'm just going to brief out because it will be very lengthy if I start writing it. Monopolistic competition means what? See, monopolistic competition has got trade of both monopoly as well as perfect competition, first of all. Right? That means the trade of price discrimination is prevalent here as well. Price discrimination is there. Okay, which was the scenario with monopoly. Secondly, the trade of perfect competition are also there. That means here you do not have only one seller, you have several sellers. Okay, so combination of both is monopolistic competition. Now they are asking you to draw the curve in long run and short run. So you have to draw those MR curve, MRMC curve you have to draw for the long and short run, and you have to tell that how, when the price is decided or when the quantity is decided, then how the change is made. So that description you had to give. Very easy question it was. Clear? Anyway, and we had already done it in the class, so it is in your notes. Anyway, next is, it is saying explain the concept of underemployment equilibrium with graphical representation or illustration. Why employment cannot be reached automatically in Keynes approach analyze. See guys, when they are talking about underemployment equilibrium, so what they are actually referring to, see, I'm going to draw the curve here. So here aggregate demand is taken, right? That is consumption, investment, NG. And here the income is taken, right? Now, this curve which makes an angle of 45 degree, it is representing Y. Yes or no? And few books also call it aggregate supply also. So this Y is the aggregate supply. Yes or no? It is representing the output now. So that is why aggregate supply. Now we need to draw aggregate demand curve. So let's say initially this is the aggregate demand curve AD1. Let's say it is equal to C1 plus I1 plus G. Okay. G is constant. If you want, you can write. If you do not want, you do not write. Now, for condition of underemployment, due to some X, Y, or Z reason, aggregate demand in the economy has declined. This is your another. This will be C2 plus I2 plus G. Yes or no? So see, initially this was your equilibrium point. Now here you have equilibrium point. So how much? This is the gap between the two. This gap is called as deflationary gap. Right? And see, if you talk about the income initially, this was the income, let me call it Y1. Now this is Y2. So there is decrease in income. This is the condition of underemployment. Why? Because let's call it A and let's call this B. So A was representing your full employment. So B is your underemployment. We had done it in the class also, this curve. Clear? Okay, so that was the first part of the question. Second part is saying why employment cannot be reached, full employment cannot be reached. It should be here. full employment cannot be reached automatically in Keynes approach. See guys, if we talk about Keynes approach, then there are several factors due to which full employment cannot be reached on its own. And what are these factors? See, first of all, Keynes is not saying, unlike classicals, Keynes is not of the view that wage to price ratio, price and wage ratio is flexible. Rather, Keynes says that it is rigid. Okay, he says that wages are sticky. Last year, this question was also asked regarding sticky wages. So Keynes is saying that your price and wages are not flexible, rather they are rigid. That means wages are not going to change like classical said. For example, and basically Keynes is talking about the downturn in the economy. So when economy is in the downturn, when it is declining, so prices of the goods are decreasing. But Keynes argue that wages are not going to decrease. Why? Because there are several agencies responsible which will not lead to the declination in the wages. Trade unions, unions of the labor, they will not be ready to work at such lower wages. Yes or no? If the firms will lower the wages, these trade unions, they will withdraw their laborers. They'll say we are not going to work. Then there are certain government interventions as well. Government policies, minimum wages policy. Even if the prices have declined drastically, still you have to give minimum wage. You cannot lower the wage, else it will lead to legal implications. So due to these, when there is no wage price flexibility, rather there is rigidity, then how can economy autonomously reach the full employment? And that was the scenario also during Great Depression. For 14 years, economy which was working, all the economies were actually working at that time under the ideas of classicals. So no economy reached the full employment. There was high level of unemployment. Right? Economy was functioning in unemployment condition. Yes or no? So here Keynes said, that's why he says that now government intervention is required. Government has to intervene. And when government will intervene, then only conditions can be made to a better way. Understood? Fine. Okay. So this is a numerical that we will do later. Next is, it is saying critically analyze the classical theory of the interest. Okay. So see guys, if we talk about classical theory of interest, so it is actually associated with the economists like David Ricardo and John Stuart Mill. So I am writing in short, Ricardo and Mill. They gave this theory. Okay. And it says what? The basic idea of the theory is that interest rates are determined by supply and demand. Supply and demand. Interest rates, that is I, it is dependent on supply and demand. And what do we mean by supply and demand? Supply means savings. And it is investment. Yes or no? So according to this, what happens that interest rates, they equilibrate supply with investment, and any changes in these variables lead to the adjustment in the interest rate. That means whatever interest rate will be there in the economy, it will be due to the supply of the funds and the demand of the fund. Okay, and whatever change is there in the interest rate, how will interest rate change? If demand is more, it will hike up. So such theory is there. This is the theory that any change in the interest rate, it will be only due to the savings and investment change or supply and demand change. Clear? So that was the introduction which you could have written. Then if we talk about the strength, because it is saying to critically analyze, and whenever guys they ask you to critically analyze a thing, then you have to discuss the strength as well as the negatives of the particular theory. Okay. So if we talk about the strength, so it is basically the clarity. This theory has very clearly linked the interest rate to real economic behavior. It is talking about the interest rate and it is relating it to the demand and supply. So it is the real economic behavior. So very well it has linked it, the both. Getting me or not? Then you see, like higher interest rate, it incentivizes the savings, yes or no? Higher interest rate will be there, so people will save more, yes or no? And when people are saving more, pay attention. Whenever I talk about, let me tell you this also. Interest rate points out at two things. One is the interest rate that you will obtain when you are saving your money. If you save your money in the bank, so bank gives you interest or not. So that is also the interest rate. Also borrowing rate. When you borrow the money from bank, when you take the loan from the bank, so bank charges some interest from you. So both the interests are referred as I. There's no distinction between them. Fine. So if interest rates are high, what will happen? People are going to save more and more of the money. Yes or no? Because they are going to get higher returns. Speak up. Right. And when interest rates fall, and pay attention, in this case only, people are not going to borrow. Lesser and lesser borrowing because interest rates are high. Right. And if interest rates are low, then people are going to do what? They are not going to save that much, more and more borrowing will be done. So that's the idea. Very clear idea is provided by this theory related to interest rate. What is the downturn of this theory? So see, it has got several problems. First of all, it has oversimplified the complexities of the financial market. Yes or no? That only demand and supply. Entire financial market related to demand and supply, related to saving and investment. So it's not that simple in reality. Okay? It's very complex. Not that simple. It has neglected factors such as risk. In financial market, risks are involved. Take the example of stock market, which is the part of financial market. So there is always a risk in investing. Then liquidity. How much liquidity is there in the market? That is also going to govern the interest rate. Yes or no? Right or wrong? And obviously, the very important role of RBI or the monetary policy. Classicals are neglecting. If I'm talking in perception from the point of view of India. So that's why I'm saying RBI. You can say, see, central bank. So central bank of each and every country frames the monetary policy. Right or wrong? So, and monetary policy, we all know it changes the interest rates. But this theory is neglecting all of it. Yes or no? Then second, it assumes that all the savings are readily available for investment. What about CRR, SLR? Banks cannot lend out each and everything. What about priority sector lending? Getting me or not? Fine. Then this theory is relying on the concept of natural interest rates, okay, and which is very problematic. In practice, what happens that interest rates are influenced by various other factors as well. Yes or no? Central bank policies and all these things are neglected here. So that is the critics of this theory. Got my point or not, guys? And see, guys, one more point you can add here, that this classical theory, it is not able to explain in a proper way the occurrence of persistent unemployment. When I say persistent unemployment, I mean that the unemployment which is not going away. Just like there was a case in depression, unemployment was there, yes or no? And the fluctuations, economic fluctuations, why sometimes economy is in the boom, why sometimes it is in recession. Classical theory does not explain these things properly. Understood or not? Everyone? Yeah? So next question. It is saying, describe the mechanism of credit creation by commercial banks and its implications On the multiplier effect, analyze some of the limitations that can jeopardize the implications of the multiplier effect. See guys, if we talk about the multiplier effect, it is very easy concept. How? And we have done it in detail in the class in elaborate form. So what actually commercial banks do is that they do credit creation, and this credit creation, it is referred as multiplying effect. That means if you deposit 100 rupee, let me explain it to you with the help of certain assumptions. So assume that you have got a single bank in a country and everyone is depositing their money in that bank only. Everyone is depositing their money in a single bank. So one bank, and all the transactions are done by this bank via this bank. There is no currency. Okay. So if you want to purchase something, so you will issue a check, transaction will be done from the bank. Getting the point? Hello. So all the money is there in the bank and only one bank. So everyone has got their account in the bank. Yes or no? Yes or no? People are not dealing in currency. People have currency. They have currency, but they have deposited their currency with the bank. They are only dealing in checks now. Now let's say Mr. A, he deposited rupees 100 in the bank. Yes or no? So what was the total deposit with bank? 100. Right. Now, Mr. B, he took a loan from bank of rupees 100. So the 100 rupee loan which bank gave to Mr. B, it got credited in the account of Mr. B. Yes or no? So now what will be the deposit in bank? 100 plus 100, 200. Now Mr. B, he had some expenses. So he, let's say, spent 100 rupees. He gave his school fee. So now this school also has got the account in this bank. So again 100 rupees will be credited here. So now it has become 300. So as you saw, the 100 rupee became 300. It is getting multiplied. Credit is getting created. How it is created? When bank is lending out the money. Yes or no? So this is what? It is a multiplier concept. The money is getting multiplied. Are you able to understand? Yeah. Now, it is asking what are the set. So you could have elaborated this thing. Then analyze the limitations. See, first limitation that everyone is dealing via bank. That's not happening here. There are several other things by which you can do a transaction. You can also do the transaction by cash. Yes or no? Right. Then it is not encountering the principle of CRR, SLR. It is not encountering the reserve. All these are implications and they lead to the reduction in the multiplier effect. Clear, everyone? Next is again a very easy question. It is asking you to differentiate between the public goods private goods. So first of all guys, what are public goods and what are private goods? So public goods are those goods which are actually the much of the shareholding, or you can say government goods. The goods which are being manufactured by government, road, trains, yes or no, street lights, public gardens, all these are called as public goods. Private goods, the goods owned by firm, being produced by firm, the t-shirt that you are wearing, your shirt, jeans, all these things, your mobile, all these are private goods. So this was the first point that you could have written, the introductory phase of it. Second thing that you could have told, that these are non-rival, whereas these are rival in nature. What I mean by non-rival and rival? So see, rival means that if you consume, let's say there is one t-shirt available in a shop of a company, XYZ company. You go and purchase that t-shirt. So once you have purchased that t-shirt, now another individual who wants that t-shirt from that shop, that t-shirt is not available for him. He cannot purchase it. So by rivalness, I mean that when consumption of a good, when if someone is consuming a good, then it will reduce the consumption of the same good for another person. That is rivalry, rivalness. Getting me? So obviously, private goods are rival. If you have purchased a t-shirt, it will not be available for another. Whereas public goods are non-rival. All of us walk on a road. My walking on a road will not prevent you from walking on a road. Yes or no? Your consumption is not decreased. Hello. Street light. Everyone is using the light emitted from the street lamps. Yeah. So if I am consuming the street lamp light, it is not going to restrict it for you. You can also use it. Getting me? So public goods are non-rival in nature. See, there are other classifications also. Pure public good, huh? Pure private good, then quasi and all these, but we are not going to go into those things because it has only asked about public and private goods differentiation. Non-rival. Second or third, first was the definition. It is non-excludable, whereas private goods are excludable. Means what? That you cannot prevent. Pay attention. Excludable. Exclude. Private goods are excludable. If you go, let's say you have gone for a movie. So if you have purchased a ticket of a movie, so only you can watch that movie, not your neighbor. So no, it's excludable. It has got a cost. Individual who is going to pay the cost will be able to use it, not all of them. But that's not the case again with the public goods. Mostly they are free. Free rider problems also arises due to this. Everyone can use it. Getting me or not? Okay. So that problem is also there with the public, private goods. It has got excludability, whereas public goods are non-excludable. So these were the main points. You could have elaborated. A small answer, it was of 7 marks. Anyway. Next, it is asking that explain how market failure occurs in the case of public goods. So see, as I told you that public goods are non-excludable, and since they are not excludable, that means they are available for everyone for use. Yes or no? And it is very difficult or impossible to prevent anyone from using them. Right? For example, national defense, the army of the country, the defense of the country. You are not paying for. Okay, let's say you are a taxpayer, you are paying. But very few taxpayers in the country, others are not paying. So that doesn't mean that they are not consuming the service provided by the national defense. How can you prevent them from using it? Yes or no? So few people are paying and others are getting it for free. That is a market failure. Yes or no? Then non-rivalrous, as I said, that use of one person does not reduces it for another person, and because of this characteristic, there is the issue of efficiency. Yes or no? It is not going to be efficient. Everyone is using it. You take the example of parks. So in most of the places, the government parks which are there, people don't want to go there because they are stinking, very ugly, dirty. You cannot prevent anyone, public property, exploiting it, right or wrong. Then there is free rider problem also here. Yeah, for free people are using it, thereby increasing the burden on the good. Okay, and due to this, it will lead to underproduction. No revenue is generated, underproduction, inefficient allocation. People who are paying for it, they are not able to use it. Taxpayers. How many taxpayers? Your BST, your buses, public property, public transportation. Taxpayers, rich people, they are not using it. The allocation problem, someone else is paying, someone else is using. So all these are the issues which lead to the market failure in this case. Understood? Next is, what is the difference between Fisher's theory and Cambridge cash balance approach to quantity theory of money, and what is the criticism? Which one is more? Okay. See guys, they are talking about Fisher theory and Cambridge theory. So Fisher and Cambridge theories are two approaches to understand the relationship between money supply, money demand, and the price levels in the context of quantity theory of money. So these two are very fundamental and very important approaches to understand the money supply, money demand, and price in terms of quantity, huh? Not quality, quantity. Okay. So first of all, if I talk about Fisher theory, so see guys, if we talk about Fisher theory, so this entire approach of Fisher, it revolves around a central equation, and the equation is mv equals to pq. Okay. This is the equation given by Fisher, where m is your v is the velocity of money. That means rate at which money transaction is taking place, or rate at which money is getting circulated. Price of good, and q is the clear quantity of goods or services, whatever, huh? Real output they are talking about. Fine. Then see here, if we the focus is on velocity. Why? Because Fisher is assuming here that velocity is the constant in the short run. Circulation of money will be constant in the short run. Okay. And if you are assuming, if you are saying that velocity will be constant, so money supply is directly going to affect the price and the quantity of the good. Yes or no? If velocity is constant, then m is equal to pq now, or m is directly proportional to p into q. So money supply is directly going to affect the price of the good and the quantity of the good. Getting my point or not? Then there is emphasis on the supply. Fisher's theory emphasizes the role of money supply in determining the price level. Huh? This is important. Fisher is focusing on money supply, okay, to determine the price level. An increase in the money supply, if you, I told you what, that velocity is constant. If you assume velocity as well as the output of quantity constant, so money supply is directly related to price. If you increase the money supply, price of the good will increase. Yes or no? So he is focusing on the money supply. Clear? Whereas if we talk about Cambridge, so Cambridge theory is basically talking about the demand of the money. It is talking about demand of money, okay? And Cambridge gives the formula. The Cambridge equation is that MD equals to KY, where MD is what? Demand of money. Okay? Y is what? Y is your national national income. Excuse me. Okay. So MD is what? It is demand of money. K is proportion of income people wish to hold as cash. So out of total income which people are earning, how much they want to hold as cash, how much cash they want to keep. That is K. And if we talk about Y, so Y is your national income. So as you can see, Cambridge is focusing on demand of money, right? Then he is saying, according to Cambridge, velocity of the money is variable. Fisher was saying that it is constant. He is saying that money is velocity of money is not constant and it can vary depending on the public's desire to hold money. Obviously, he is saying K na. K is what? Proportion people want to keep as cash. So this thing, the proportion that people want to keep cash as with cash, keep with them as cash, it can change. Velocity of money will change. So for him, velocity of money is variable. Understood? Right. So these were the points that you could have illustrated and you could have completed this answer. Clear? Everyone. So guys, we have done section A. Let's wait for 5 minutes. Then we are going to start with section B. Okay, just give me 5 minutes. Okay, so welcome back. Now that was the section A. Now moving on to section B. Question number 5th. A part again. Pay attention. There are 5 questions in question 5th. 5 and 5th. Each of 10 marks. So again you have to write 150 words. First is, it is saying critically examine per capita GDP as a crude indicator of development. So guys, if you talk about per capita GDP, so it is regarded as a important parameter to analyze the growth of a country. Yes or no? To analyze the economic development of a country. Most countries, they talk about what is per capita GDP. What is the income of per individual? How much GDP per individual? That means per capita GDP. Okay. No. Now see, it is used commonly, but it has got several problems associated with it. So that's what the question is asking you, that you have to examine that this per capita GDP, is it a proper indicator, or what are the problems where it lacks? That's what you have to do in the question. So first of all, it does not account for income distribution. See, me and 20 other people are sitting in this room. So we have per capita GDP. There is the per capita GDP of this room based on the income of all of us. Okay. Now if suddenly Mr. Ambani walks in the room in which we are sitting, suddenly the per capita GDP of this room will rise. Yes or no? Due to one individual. That doesn't mean that my income has increased, my contribution to GDP has increased, no, or of any other individual has increased, no. So per capita GDP increased, but in reality our income is still the same. Getting me? Therefore, this per capita GDP concept, it does not highlight the distribution of income. It does not tell us anything about the income distribution. Getting me? And this may lead to, there can be a huge amount of inequality. Best example is India. Per capita GDP, whatever is there, but there is so much inequality. We all know it is due to few rich people, or the upper, you can say upper class, because they are earning high. It is not telling you about the inequality. Okay. Major portion of the population can be poor or below poverty line. Still the per capita GDP of a country can be high. Yes or no? Secondly, this per capita GDP concept, it is ignoring the factors such as, or you can summarize these factors as non-economic factors. No emphasis is laid on the non-economic factors such as health, education, quality of life. These factors are not considered when we calculate the per capita GDP. But education, health, all these things are very crucial and important if you are talking about the holistic development of a country. Getting my point or not? But these factors are ignored in per capita GDP concept. Thirdly, per capita GDP is only concerned with the formal sector. In India, we have major population working in the informal sector. No mention of that sector is there in the per capita GDP, therefore not giving the exact idea. Yes or no? Also, one more problem is that in order to increase the per capita GDP or GDP, more and more production is incorporated, and that has got environmental hazards. And we are paying the cost of environment, such high pollution, global warming. What are these things? These things are due to the urge or hunger to increase the per capita GDP. Getting my point? So all these were the problems associated with per capita GDP. Moving on. It is saying explain managed floating rate and sterilized intervention for exchange rate. So managed floating rate. See guys, if we talk about managed floating rate, so what do we mean by, pay attention, I'll give you a brief introduction of it. Exchange rate. What is the meaning of exchange rate? Exchange rate means, if I take the example of India and I take the example of US dollar. So what is the worth of $1 in comparison to rupees? For example, it is 83. So $1 equals to 83 rupees. This is the exchange rate. When we convert one currency into another currency, that is called the exchange rate. Getting my point? Okay. Now there are several ways, or you can say there are few ways in which we can convert one currency into another currency. One of that way is managed floating rate. What is managed? Pay attention. Managed floating rate is actually the mixture of two types of exchange rate evaluation techniques. One is your floating rate. What happens in floating? In floating rate, what we do is there is no intervention done by the RBI. Then market is the factor which decides that what will be the worth of, I'm just taking example of dollar and rupee, that what will be the worth of dollar in rupees. Market will decide. That means in accordance to the demand of dollar, the price will increase for dollar. If the demand is high, yeah, and supply is low. And if supply is high, demand is low, then price will fall. So market will decide that what should be the exchange rate. That's what floating exchange rate means. Another is managed exchange rate. Here, government decides or central bank decides that what will be the exchange rate. So government fixes it. This is sort of a fixed exchange rate. This is called fixed exchange rate. What is fixed exchange rate? Here, government pre-decides that, okay, or RBI pre-decides that $1 equals to 20 rupees. That's it. Getting? Both these methods have got various problems associated with them. For example, in floating rate, market is very volatile. Sometimes there can be high demand of dollar, sometimes very low demand. And if exchange rate is totally dependent on market, then the price of dollar will be very volatile, very flexible. And it can lead to several problems in international trade. For example, if you want to import a good and the cost of that good, you want to import it from America, the cost is 5 lakh rupees. So he said, okay, you fixed it and now you are going to purchase it and the exchange rate changed. Now you have to pay 7 lakh for it. So that will make it really impossible to work and function. If you talk about managed or fixed exchange rate, it also has got certain problems. Externalities. If you fix the rate to a certain value and there is high demand, then RBI will not have that much dollar to supply to the people at such a low rate because you have fixed the price. Now many people want to purchase it. How will you give it? You do not have that much. You cannot print the dollar. Thereby, the third concept, managed floating exchange rate, is there. Here, both the factors, that is government and market, both are effective. The exchange rate is decided based on the demand and supply, yes or no? Demand of a particular currency and supply of a particular currency. In this case, demand of dollar and supply of dollar. But if there are too many fluctuations, if the market becomes too volatile, then government or RBI intervenes in the market. And why it intervenes? In order to keep the exchange rate stable. Getting me? How it intervenes? Suppose there is high demand. So what RBI does? It induces extra dollars in the market, increases the supply. Thereby, demand subsides. If there is high supply, then it purchases the dollar. So again demand will rise. Clear? So in this way, managed floating exchange rate works. Clear or not? Next is sterilized intervention. When it occurs, how it occurs? So see guys, it occurs when a central bank intervenes in the foreign market. So if RBI is intervening in the foreign market, but simultaneously RBI is taking control or RBI is taking precautionary steps, that intervention of RBI in the foreign market should not lead to change in the exchange rate or should not lead to excess demand or supply in the domestic market. Okay, getting my point? For example, if there is, by the intervention of RBI in the foreign market, if the demand increases, then RBI can increase the MS, it can increase the supply. So such measures can be adopted by RBI. Understood? So that's what you had to write in this question. Next is, it is saying discuss how carbon trading is helpful in reducing environmental degradation. And see, this 2-3 questions are here in the paper which were asked in the prelims of last year. In the prelims, they asked the question in MCQ form. Here, they have asked you to elaborate it. This carbon trading thing was asked in the prelims of last year. Okay. So see guys, if I talk about carbon trading, it is also known as cap trade system. So this word is important. If you want, you can write it, because if it comes in this with this name, so you should know that what it is talking about. Cap trade system. So how it is helpful? First of all, it helps us to reduce the environmental degradation. How? By creating a financial incentive for the businesses to lower the greenhouse gas emission. So there, see what, I'll give you a brief of it, what it is, and then I will elaborate it as well. So what happens here, that overview is that certain carbon credits are fixed. What do we mean by carbon credits? Let's say a company is there which has got 1,000 carbon credits. So these carbon credits for 1 year or whatever the time period, I am going to take 1 year. So let's say a firm has got 1,000 carbon credits. Carbon credits you can take as currency. So carbon credits are there 1,000 for 1 year. Every time this company does some production, it is going to pollute the environment. How? It is going to emit the carbonated gases. Carbon dioxide will be emitted. So depending on the amount of carbon dioxide emitted, these carbon credits will decline. For example, more amount of goods you purchase from the market, you have got money, you are purchasing good. More goods you purchase, your money will reduce. Similarly, more emission a company does, its carbon credits are going to reduce. So if a company has 1,000 carbon credit, so it can only produce carbon dioxide worth 1,000 carbon credit. Only that much weight of carbon dioxide it can produce in any year. Now, if it has used all its carbon credit, still it wants to do production and wants to emit more gas, then it has to purchase the carbon credit from the market or from other country. Yes or no? And for that, it has to use the money. And when it will use money, so it is sort of financial implication on it, penalty. If you are deteriorating the environment, you are paying penalty for it. Yes or no? Right? Similarly, if there is one more firm, let's take an example. It also had 1,000 carbon credit, but it only used 700 carbon credits in a year. It is left with 300 carbon credit. So this firm can sell out its carbon credit. Yes or no? So it will get a reward. It will get financial reward for it. So in this way, this is an encouragement for the firms to emit less and lesser quantity of carbonated gases, yeah, by rewarding and penalizing. Got my point? So that's what you had to write in this question. Moving on. Next is, it is saying higher tariffs do not increase employment. They just redistribute the unemployed. Do you agree with that statement? Explain. So yes, totally agree with that statement. Why? See, first of all, if you talk about tariff, so what do we mean by tariff? So it is a tax that is imposed on imports. Excess tax imposed on imports. So why? Why this excess tax or tax is levied on the imports by the countries? See, countries do this thing in order to reduce their imports so that their current account deficit can improve, so that their trade deficit can improve. Because more import, less export will lead to trade deficit, na? Yes or no? So in order to improvise this condition, they impose extra tax. Then now what will happen? That if a company wants to import something, it will be costlier for it. Or if an individual wants to purchase something from abroad, it will be costlier for him. So it is sort of discouragement for him. He can purchase a similar good domestically. Yes or no? So this will reduce the import and it will also be a boost for our domestic production. But what question is asking us? It is saying that tariff, I told you, the good point is that import will be reduced and domestic production will increase because demand for domestic goods will increase. So a perception gets created that if demand for domestic good is increased, then more and more people are going to purchase. Demand is increased, demand is high, so more and more production of domestic good will be done. And if more and more production of domestic good will be done, then more employment will be created domestically, so unemployment will reduce. Yes or no? That's what the common notion is, but no, it is wrong. Excess employment or extra employment is not created by higher tariff. Rather, it is just unemployment just gets transferred from one place to another place. What I mean? Understand, if government has imposed tariffs, then import is declining. Yes or no? Domestic production is increasing. So what will it lead to extra tariff? It will lead to, okay, and domestic production. Yes or no? Now see guys, there are several industries, many firms who import the raw materials. Yes or no? Industries which are dependent on import. They import the raw material and then they manufacture goods. So when the tariff is levied on imports, then these industries, they will import lesser amount of raw material. When they will import lesser amount of raw material, their production is going to decline. And when their production will decline, they will not hire people. Rather, they will start firing people. So unemployment will prevail in such industries. Yes or no? Right. Here, domestic production has increased. So employment will increase. Yes or no? So the unemployment which was there in the domestic sector, you have just transferred it to another industry. That is also the part of your economy. Just the transfer of unemployment or distribution of unemployment is occurring. That's what the question is saying. No? It is not increasing the employment, rather it is redistributing the unemployment. Clear? Okay. Next is Explain how the equilibrium terms of trade are determined by using offer curves of trading partners. So this is very easy question. It is talking about, I'm just going to tell you, read it for you that what it is, and if required I'll explain also. See, equilibrium terms of trade, what is the meaning of it and how is it determined? It is determined by the offer curve. Why? Because offer curve is going to illustrate the quantity of goods a country is willing to trade at different price ratios. That means this much quantity of good a particular country is willing to trade, it is willing to sell for a particular price. Why? Because a country will sell a good which it has produced and will purchase another good which it requires from another country. That all is represented by offer curve. Okay. Each country's offer curve reflects its production possibilities. Yes or no? What I told you the quantity of good a country is willing to sell. So country is going to sell only that good which it has produced. Yes or no? So offer curve is actually telling you about the production possibility, what all country is producing. Yes or no? Yes or no? And preference of different goods, what other goods it requires. Yeah. So are you getting my point or not? Offer curve is telling you what country is producing and what it needs. Because it is trading, it is selling the good it has produced for another good it wants. Okay. Now, when two countries they are going to engage in trade, then their offer curves intersect at a particular point. And what is the meaning of this intersection? This intersection means that the quantity of goods they are willing to offer matches what other countries demand. Some countries willing to offer 100 goods, other countries demanding the same quantity of those 100 goods. So there will be intersection. Now the trade can occur. Understood or not? So this intersection point, it determines the equilibrium terms of trade as was asked in the question, and also the relative price, at what price it is going to occur for the goods exchanged. Clear? It's a very easy question. Moving on. Acha. It is saying discuss the elasticity approach and absorption approach for adjustment in balance of payment. So guys, if we talk about balance of payment, and I hope you know what balance of payment is. Okay. So balance of payment means actually how much you have exported, how much you have imported, price of it, that is balanced. Type of balance sheet, global balance sheet is balance of payment anyway. So there are two approaches which are very important when we talk about balance of payment in international economics. One is elasticity approach, another is absorption approach. So what is elasticity approach? So it basically focuses on the responsiveness of exports and imports to the changes in exchange rate. So it is going to focus on that how import and export change or alter when there is a change in exchange rate. What I mean, I'll give you an example and you will understand. For example, your exchange rate declines. That means initially, let's say $1 was 50 rupees. Now $1 is 80 rupees. Yeah. Now what will happen? Guys, when such thing happens, when value of rupee depreciates, it declines, then pay attention, it becomes easy for the foreigners to purchase goods from you. We'll give you an example again. Let's say initially $1 was equal to 10 rupees. Okay. And price of thumbs up was 10 rupees. Yes or no? So when a foreigner came to India, he could purchase this thumbs up for $1. Yes or no? Now there is change in exchange rate and $1 equals to 20 rupees. Now for $1, a foreigner can purchase 2 thumbs up. So it has become cheaper for him. So whenever exchange rate is going to decline, whenever currency of a country is going to decline, exports will increase. Why? Because more and more foreigners will purchase the good from you. Yes or no? So decline in currency will lead to what? Export will increase and import will decrease. Why? Because now it has become costlier for you. Initially, if you want to purchase good from foreign, the cost has just doubled from 10 rupees was $1, now 20 rupees is $1. So to purchase a foreign good, you need to have dollars. So you need to purchase the dollars. So you have to spend double amount of rupees. So import will decrease, export will increase. Yes or no? So depending on exchange rate, balance of payment has adjusted or not. Export increase and vice versa. If currency appreciates, then export will decrease, import will increase. So this approach is your elasticity approach. Getting my point? Next is your absorption approach. So guys, this focuses on, rather than relying on the exchange rate, it is focusing on the total income of a country and capacity of a country to absorb goods and services. Okay, and due to this, it says that balance of payment will be managed. Yes or no? What I mean here is that in a country, consumption and investment is this approach says, let me put it in simple words, that consumption and investment are going to determine the balance of payment condition of a country. Okay. For example, if country's consumption exceeds its income, by consumption I mean absorption. If country is consuming more and its income is less, what will, if your consumption is more, income is less, what will happen? You will borrow the money or not? Similarly, if country is consuming more, income is less, what will it do? It will start importing the goods or not? So import will increase. And if consumption is less, income is more, export will happen. Income here is production only. Yeah. So import and export can be determined. So it is basically focusing on the structural of the country rather than focusing on the exchange rate. Clear? Okay. Next is, it is saying, by using Stopler-Samuelson theorem, discuss the possible effects of free trade on income inequalities in developing country. So see guys, if I talk about Stopler-Samuelson theorem, so it says that under the conditions of free trade, an increase in the price of a good will lead to the increase in the real income of the factor used intensively for the production of that good and decreasing the real income of other factors. So what is it saying? I will put it in simple words, that if there is increase in the price of a particular good, let's say price of good A has increased, and let's say any good is manufactured or produced by the factors of production. So the factor of production used for the production of good A was, let's say, labor. Yes or no? So when price of good A has increased, so more production of good A will be done by the firms. And when firms will produce more of good A, they will employ more and more labor. Yes or no? So real income of laborers will increase or not? Because this was the factor that was used. Whereas, what about other factors of production? What about capital? Capital intensive good is not manufactured. Therefore, the real income of capital of capital, that means people who were lending out the money, their income will decrease because now capital is not required. Labor intensive good is produced. Yes or no? So that's what Samuelson is saying, that if there is the increase in the price of a good, then the factor of production employed for production of that good, its real income will increase, whereas there will be decline in the real income of other factors of production. So that's the theorem. Now, what is the effect on inequality? So first of all, factor abundance, like developing countries, India is also developing countries, they have abundance of labor, yes or no, relative to capital. So when these countries engage in free trade, when they start trading with other countries, they typically export labor intensive goods, yes or no, and import capital intensive goods. The increased demand for labor intensive good can raise wages of low skilled workers. Labor's wages will increase, whereas highly skilled capital intensive, their wages will decline. Next is wage disparities. So a good which is in demand, its laborers will get high wages. Other good which is not in demand, they will get low wages. Are countries are trading na. So if America requires that good which requires a particular skill set, so these countries, the countries which are trading with America, they will manufacture only that good which they can sell to America. What about other goods? People working for the manufacturing of other goods, their wages will decline. And people manufacturing those goods which is being demanded in America, their wages will rise. So wage disparity, inequality. Yes or no? Getting me or not? Capital owners, free trade may also favor capital owners. People having money, people having factories, they will look at the demand and they will only manufacture that good. Yes or no? They will make profits, favoring the capital owners. Okay. Sectoral shift, it can also lead to sectoral shift. Why to produce other good when it is not required in other countries? Everyone will start producing khatiya and multani mitti demanded in America. Understood, in order to make easy money. So all these are the problems associated with the that Samuelson theorem illustrates. So guys, last question for today, 6th question C part. Remaining 2 questions, 7 and 8, we will do in part 2 of this video. Okay. So it is saying, explain how the elasticity of demand for foreign exchange is influenced by the elasticity of home demand for imports and by the elasticity of home supply of import competing goods. So pay attention. Explain how elasticity of demand for foreign exchange. Elasticity of demand means what? Change in demand due to price is called elasticity of demand. Yes or no? A thing is said to be elastic when, due to small change in price, there is huge change in demand. Okay. So now understand the question. It is asking you how the elasticity of demand for foreign exchange. Foreign exchange means, let's take the example of dollar. So demand of dollar. So elasticity of demand of dollar is influenced. So elasticity of demand of dollar or demand of dollar will be influenced by home demand. Home demand, that means domestic demand in your country. Demand for imports. What is the demand for imports in your country? How is it going to affect the demand of dollar? Elasticity of demand of dollar, that's what we have to understand. So let us, and second it is saying home supply. So first let's talk about demand for imports. So if we talk about elasticity of demand, home demand for import, so what is it telling us? What is the elasticity of home demand for import? It is actually the sensitivity of the quantity of goods demanded or imported. Quantity demanded imports to the change in price. That means if there is slight change in price, then how much quantity of imported goods will change? To change in price, how much will the goods imported, quantity of goods imported will change? That's what is represented by elasticity of demand of home goods import. Clear? Yes, if demand is elastic, a small price change will lead to a significant change in the quantity demanded. Okay, what will be the impact of it in foreign exchange demand? So see, when demand for import is elastic, if demand for import is elastic, that means slight change in the price of the foreign good will change the demand. Okay, so a depreciation of the domestic currency, if now I am relating it with the foreign exchange, understand? Demand is elastic. Import demand is elastic. Okay. First thing. Second, currency. Your home currency has depreciated slightly. Slight depreciation. So when this happens, I told you just now. I told you what happens. Imports become expensive. Yes or no? Right. So this will lead to now imports have become, currency has declined, foreign exchange currency has declined, and demand is elastic. This will lead to decline in import. Import will decline significantly. Yes or no? So demand for import will decline. Yes or no? And when demand for import will decline, then what will happen? You wanted to purchase something from America. Now imports, now what has happened? It has become expensive. Dollar has become expensive. Because currency has declined, na, dollar has become expensive. Now you will not purchase dollars. Demand of dollar will also decline. Demand of foreign exchange will decline. Getting me or not? Why? Because import is going down. Import has become expensive. So demand for dollar will decline. Demand for foreign exchange will decline. Clear or not? Did you understand? Demand is elastic, okay, for import. So slight change in the price of import will affect the demand. If your currency has declined, so import will become expensive. So if expensive, people will not import, and if they will not import, they will not demand dollar, so demand of dollar will decline, and vice versa. Understood or not? Now if we talk about second factor, home supply, elasticity of home supply for import competing goods, okay. Import competing goods means domestic goods. Okay. So what is it? This, what it measures? This shows how sensitive. Just a minute. Yeah. It shows that how sensitive the quantity supplied of goods that compete with imports changes with price. In your home, the domestic goods that are being manufactured, how sensitive their demand is if the price is changed. That's what it shows. Understood? So if supply is elastic, it means what? Suppliers can increase the production easily in response to the change in price. Yes or no? Now, what will be the impact on foreign exchange? So, if the home supply of import competing goods, that means domestic goods, is elastic, if it is elastic and there is depreciation, I am assuming it to be elastic, and again your currency has depreciated. Currency has depreciated, so import has become expensive. Yes or no? So import will decline. Bolo, yes or no? Right. And when import will decline, so people will switch on to the domestic production. So domestic production will increase. Yes or no? Right or wrong? And when domestic production has increased, people are not going to purchase from foreign. So what will happen to foreign exchange? Demand of foreign exchange will? Yes or no? Okay. So overall, if you want to summarize it, you can summarize it like elastic home demand plus elastic supply of import competing good. So if the home demand is also elastic and elastic supply of import competing good, so it will lead to reduced demand of foreign exchange of for consumers. Consumers will demand less of foreign exchange and they will switch to domestic product. And if there is inelastic home demand plus inelastic supply of import goods, then what will happen? Then demand of foreign exchange will rise. Yes or no? Foreign exchange, it will increase. Clear? Okay. So that's it for today, guys. We will, in the next part, we will do remaining 2 questions. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care. I hope you understood.